You might wonder how our thoughts are influenced. How is it that we choose to have a negative thought over a positive thought? In this short presentation, I'll discuss how our thoughts are influenced by our 5 physical senses and our intellectual faculties. However, let's first discover the various components of our mind. First, everything in our life is nothing but an expression of our mind, and our body merely carries out the actions. Now, our mind is made up of 2 parts. We have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Our conscious mind is our intellectual or thinking mind. This is where every thought and idea originates. This is where our free will and awareness lies. Now, our subconscious mind is our feeling or emotional mind. Think of it as a storehouse for all of our memories, our habits, conditioning, beliefs. It's also where our self-image is stored. Now, in the conscious mind, we have our ability to choose our thoughts, and we could choose any thought that we want. The conscious mind has the power to accept, neglect, or reject any thought or idea that presents itself. So if we have that choice, why not choose a big, beautiful picture of everything we want in our lives instead of choosing to build a picture of all the things we don't want or all the reasons why something isn't going to work out? You see, we can take the very worst of situations and choose to think something positive about it. Likewise, we could take the very best of situations and choose to think something negative about it. Now, either way, the thoughts we choose to accept, whether they be positive or negative, are then impressed on the subconscious mind, and they dictate the way that we feel. Now, let's talk about our 5 physical senses. We could see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. And we've been conditioned to learn from these senses from a very young age. In fact, these physical senses are hardwired like little antennae to our conscious mind. And this is how we gather the majority of our information from our environment. And these senses are always on. In other words, we don't need to tell our eyes in the morning to start seeing, or we don't need to tell our nose to start smelling when we walk into a restaurant or bakery. They're just always on, and since they're always on, they're constantly being bombarded by our environment through television, radio, newspaper, and all the people around us. So there is a better way to influence our thoughts, independent of our environment. And this is through the higher side of our mind, which is our intellect. However, we've never been conditioned to work with our intellect. We all can easily name our 5 physical senses. However, if I ask you to name off your 6 intellectual faculties, you probably would be guessing at best. But that's because we've never been taught these before. Yet it's through the proper use of these intellectual faculties that will allow us to control the way we think. And the good news is, they are like mental muscles. So the 6 intellectual faculties are our perception, will, imagination, memory, intuition, and reason. In an upcoming video, I'll be training more on this subject. So instead of gathering information from our lower side of our nature through our physical senses, we can instead develop and use the higher side of our personality, our intellect. And when we do, we can then begin to change the way we feel and move this thing we call a body into a completely different vibration, which will ultimately change our results. So use these intellectual faculties and get excited about them and let them guide you on your journey from here to there. Have a great day.